What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Climb the Pocket YouTube page. My name is Steve. As always, we have a good video for you today. Today, we're going over our must-own players at all positions. Before we get into the video, I want to go ahead and announce a fun contest we got going on. We're giving away a signed Kenny Golladay jersey, officially signed by him. It's definitely all certified and whatnot. All you have to do is follow the rules in the description, and you'll be entered for a chance to get that Kenny Golladay signed jersey. It starts with subbing to the channel, so if you like the content today or any of our other content, go ahead and sub to the channel, like this video. It really helps us grow. I have a special guest with me today. Ryan is on vacation, but we have Colin from Shotgun Fantasy. What is up, man?
Not too much, man. Happy to be a part of the Climb the Pocket episode today and talk some fantasy football.
Yeah, definitely, man. I'm excited to see what players that you find yourself drafting in a lot of different leagues. This is not going to be a crazy analytical video. We're just going to give you a few points on why we think we find this guy in our team on every single mock draft and maybe even on all our teams come draft season. So let's go ahead and get into it. Number one on the board, we have our must-own running backs. I have Derrick Henry. His current ADP is 6th overall, so you're finding him in the first round. You're probably not going to get him in every draft unless you have the ideal pick. I'm not going to pass on guys like Zeke or CMC or Saquon for him, but Derrick Henry's creeping up in my first round. I find myself taking him a lot if I'm around the 5 pick, and maybe Alvin Kamara goes before. I'm not really into getting a wide receiver earlier, even if it is Michael Thomas. And, you know, we're talking half PPR in this. We don't really talk standard on this channel. And so Derrick Henry does take a kind of a hit in any sort of PPR league, but I just think his workload is so secure, and I like to compare him, and I have in past videos, to like a Zeke, like safe-like floor, to where he's just going to get so many carries and so many touchdown opportunities on his team and whatnot. I just feel like it's so safe that, like, and he just signed that contract extension. You know they're just going to, you know, use him because they're definitely paying for it. So I feel so comfortable with Derrick Henry, and Darrington Evans is not really going to eat into Derrick Henry's rushing floor because he's more of a scat back and whatnot. So he's kind of fits that third down role, but, you know, he's a rookie. If they want to get him involved, you know, he's going to have to be good in pass pro and whatnot. Derrick Henry, I think his snap share could actually increase this year a little bit. So I like him to definitely be a top 3 rusher in the league. 15 touchdowns, like, that's pretty safe for me. So I find myself, if I'm at pick 4 through 7, if I get Derrick Henry, I'm definitely not disappointed. He was RB3 last year. Your first must-own running back is Josh Jacobs for the Las Vegas Raiders.
It sounds weird saying that, doesn't it?
It does. I had to really try.
Yeah, for me, Josh Jacobs is kind of paved to kind of take a step forward this year in terms of the offseason buzz that's been going on with his addition to the pass game. Last year, he wasn't really too involved in the pass game. But this year, Gruden came out and said that they want to involve him more. And I just think if you're going for like a running back strategy to start off your draft, he could be either the first running back that you pick if you're towards like the tail end of the draft, or your first pick of the next round. It could be a good stack, say maybe with like Jacobs and Chubb or Mixon and Jacobs. I just think Jacobs is a really good either first or second option for a running back, just because he had a really solid rookie season. I think he's really shaped up for a good sophomore season to come back and hopefully stay healthy, because I know he dealt with some injuries last year. But I think he can be utilized a lot in this offense because a lot of the pieces are kind of unknown in terms of like their wide receiver core. Not really sure how that's going to play out. So I just think he's also a pretty safe pick for running back. And I'm looking to get him in as many drafts as I can, just because I think he has a really high ceiling and his floor is pretty high as well.
Yeah, I think he's like an optimal RB2 for your team, because he's probably going to be an RB1. And if you can get 2 of them at the end of the draft, you know, at the turn like you were talking about, I love me some Josh Jacobs. He was RB18 last year as a rookie. Pretty solid, and he missed a few games like you mentioned. So I think his workload goes up from here. I know they drafted a few pass-catching running backs and whatnot, that guys that could eat into his load. They re-signed Jalen Richard, but I think there's no way that Josh Jacobs doesn't have 275 plus touches this year, so he's going to have a huge workload. And definitely like that pick. Moving on, another must-own running back for me. It's actually kind of a weird one, but it's Latavius Murray. So I'm kind of going like the handcuff route. I think Latavius Murray is a premium handcuff. When we saw when Alvin Kamara was out last year, Latavius Murray, in I think week 7 and 8, he was like the number 2 and number 3 running back. Remember, he tore up the Bears in week 7 or one of those weeks. And then the following week, Alvin Kamara was still out, and he tore up Arizona. And this guy was just a beast. And right now he's going in round 10, ADP 114th overall. He was 29th last year, so he was almost an RB2 last year, mostly because of those games. But, I think he has standalone value on this team no matter what. And if Alvin Kamara goes down again, for whatever reason, maybe we don't know that last year was the beginning of an injury bug, for Alvin Kamara and the beginning of injury history for him. I hope not. I want good health for all NFL players, but if that does happen, getting a round 10 handcuff in, a 12-team league, that's not bad value. I see Alexander Madison going in this area, Chase Edmonds going in this area, another guy I really like because Kenny and Drake is kind of uncertain, but I think Lat Murray is a really good handcuff, like I mentioned, and a guy that can have standalone value. God forbid your bye weeks all match up bad. So I like to throw darts here, after round 8 on guys that can return really big value and help my team out if something goes wrong with one of my starters or someone else's starter. If Kamara goes down and I have Lat Murray, maybe I'll trade him to him and get another good piece in return. So I find myself getting Latavius Murray on a lot of my teams. Another running back you find having on most of your teams is Le'Veon Bell, ADP 39th overall, round 4, so the beginning of round 4. He finished RB17 last year in his first year on the Jets. Why do you like Le'Veon Bell so much?
So the reason why I am a big fan of Bell is, well, obviously the talent is there. Last year, his situation was a little unfortunate. With the offensive line, it was just terrible. The quarterback play was abysmal. There was like 3 different quarterbacks they were trying out, and just none of them were working out until Darnold got back healthy after having mono. And it just was a weird start to his Jets career to begin with. And I think with the offseason acquisitions and all the linemen that they signed and drafted, the lines improved, their weapons have improved. So I think his ability to take a step forward this year is a lot better because of the availability that he has with the team that he has around him now, especially with the offensive line getting better. I just think he's poised and put in a better position than he was last year, just with all the situations that happened with the Jets. And so say if you start running back, and then you go wide receiver for your 3rd pick, if he's there in the 4th round as your flex running back, I just find that as tremendous value in terms of what he's capable of and the volume that he could potentially see, especially with out of the backfield with catches. So he's going to get a lot of touches. He's only got Frank Gore to deal with, Father Time. So, it's really not that big of a situation to where he's going to have touches taken away from him. A lot of people are shying away from him, so his availability is going to be there, and I'm willing to take the risk, even though last year wasn't that great. Personally, I just see it only getting better.
Yeah, the offensive line was awful last year. That's why, his efficiency was awful. He was under 4 yards a carry, around 3.5. That's just bad. But, he came out on Twitter talking about how he's going to have a fantastic season. And part of me doesn't want to believe him because I know who Le'Veon Bell is and, the character he is, and a lot of, he likes to be in the media and whatnot. But, hey, I could believe and I could see it, and I like him as a flex play for sure. That would be ideal, especially because he has top 15 running back upside for sure. Moving on to our must-own wide receivers. My number 1 is DJ Moore, ADP 37th overall, so right behind Bell, round 4. Wide receiver 18 last year in his sophomore season. And what's not to like about this guy? A low ADOT guy. Teddy Bridgewater comes in, and that's kind of the definition of his style of play. He likes to dump it off the guy short. DJ Moore is that type of player. He likes to make plays, from the line of scrimmage and make plays in space. I think he's going to catch, last year at 87 catches. I think he can definitely do that again, if not increase it even more. I don't really think there's tons of threats here. I know they brought in Robbie Anderson, but I kind of don't see him having a lot of catches, just more of a deep threat. And I know Robbie Anderson's better than just a deep threat, but I think that's going to be his role on the team. And they have Curtis Samuel, who I think is a similar style player to DJ Moore as far as how I think DJ Moore will actually be used. And obviously they have C-Mac, but I think DJ Moore is getting better over time. And, he's definitely going to be able to eclipse that 1,100-yard, mark that he hit last year. Probably go for 90 catches, what I'm saying. And definitely more than 4 touchdowns, what he had last year. I don't see a way that he has less than 4 touchdowns. So I love DJ Moore this year. I think he's gonna be a PPR dynamo. Getting him in round 4. I mean, I'm actually comfortable with him as my wide receiver 1. So if I get him in round 4 and I went like triple running back or grab the tight end like Travis Kelce in round 2 or something, I'd be pretty stoked with getting DJ Moore and then following him up with someone later, like maybe Robert Woods or whatnot. Hint. So DJ Moore, one of my must-own wide receivers. We'll move on to your must-own wide receiver. That's Kenny Golladay, our man with the signed jersey. Like I said, sub to the channel, follow the rules in the description if you want to win that signed jersey. But his ADP is 24. He's right at the turn at round 2, round 3. Why do you like Kenny Golladay so much?
Where you're able to get him. So I've been in some redraft drafts the past like 2 weeks, and I've had top 3 draft spots for my 3rd pick coming around the turn. He's available. He's been available both times. And for a wide receiver, for your first wide receiver off the board, because I tend to go running back, or if you go running back, tight end to grab one of the main guys, the top guys like Kelce or Kittle. If you have already your number 1 running back, which is probably a top 3 guy at that position, and then number 1, number 2 tight end, I think he's a super solid wide receiver 1 to have, just with his upside and with Stafford coming back this year healthy. I just think the sky's the limit with him, just based on his talent and just what he brings to the table. And he's a touchdown machine as well. So I'm very happy with him as my wide receiver 1. It's going to be a throw first offense, and I don't really see them being ahead too much in the season. So I feel like they're going to have to fight their way back. And usually the way you do that is you throw the ball. And I think he's going to be the main target to go to. So I see him getting peppered with targets, and so I'm gladly to pick him up as my wide receiver 1 and get him in that 3rd round area.
Yeah, Golladay in round 3 is gold. It's treasure. I love it. He's my wide receiver.
Absolutely,
5. I love it. I'll have him on every one of my teams if I get him in round 3. Absolutely. Moving on, my other must-own wide receiver, Terry McLaurin. For the Washington football team. I found some random logo, and we will call them that until we know what their name is. ADP 64, round 6. Wide receiver 27 last year as a rookie with some pretty abysmal quarterback play. Started to pick it up later in the later half of the season with Dwayne Haskins. They were obviously teammates at Ohio State. They bring it all together at the end of the season. Starts to look pretty solid. And Terry McLaurin puts himself together a pretty fine season. Over 900 yards. He has just almost 60 catches. And he's a pretty big downfield threat. The team found a wide receiver 1 in a haystack. I think that they are going to feature Terry McLaurin as a focal point of this offense. You know, obviously they want to get their run game going. They want Darius Geis to be healthy. They have AP there. They obviously just lost a starting wide receiver. So, you know, Terry McLaurin, his value could actually be going up from here. For whatever reason, he's still hovering around the 6th round. And this is a guy I should have mentioned that I'd be happy to pair with DJ Moore as my top 2 wide receivers and, you know, go running backs in the first 3 rounds or something like that. I think that'd be a fantastic start. It'd actually be my favorite start. I could see, I don't care what 3 running backs there are, but if I get DJ Moore and Terry McLaurin, that's my must-own team right there. I definitely like Terry McLaurin this year. He's my guy. He's Ryan's guy. We mention this guy all the time, Scary Terry. He's a guy, if you get him in the 6th round, feel great about it. Absolutely. He's a guy that you like I mentioned, you're going to want to target this guy if you go RB early or take a tight end or a quarterback early. This guy's going to be there for you. Don't worry about wide receiver value because Terry is there for you in round 6. Moving on to your second must-own wide receiver, that is Robert Woods for the Los Angeles Rams. ADP 57, round 5, 2019, finishes wide receiver 17. He's moving up draft boards.
Listen, Steve.
There we go.
No, I had to throw in that Ryan plug. The Terry pick, love it. I think a lot of people are down on him just because of the Washington football team as a whole is just a mess in terms of their predictability of how they're going to do. But love that pick. But with Woods, I think he is a must-own at his ADP right now, just based on where he's going. With the new offense that the Rams are going to be rolling out this year, with the departure of Brandon Cooks, I think the availability of the targets are just going to be there for him. I know obviously he had a kind of a rough start to the season last year. Couldn't find the end zone to save his life, but he kind of turned it around at the end of the season. And I just think that offense is going to be kind of more pass happy this year. I just think he's just going to get hit with targets and just looked at all the time with him and Kupp, and especially with the tight end situation too. It's going to be kind of, defenses are going to be kind of like weary on like who's really going to be like the main focus. He just always seems to be a very heavily targeted player, and I just think where you can get him, if you can get him in the 5th round as your 2nd or 3rd wide receiver, I think that's an absolute steal.
Yeah, if Robert Woods caught more touchdowns last year, he would have been a wide receiver 1 sneakily, or pretty close
easy
to it. At the end of the year, once they started running the 12 personnel with the multiple tight ends featuring Tyler Higbee and whatnot, Cooper Kupp's targets went down. But Woods was a PPR monster. He was catching so many balls every game along with Tyler Higbee. And I think they like that style of play. So I love Cooper Kupp this year because I honestly felt like there might have been something wrong with him. But if there wasn't something wrong with him at the end of last season, and the whole Woods-Higbee thing is what they want to go with and kind of bring Cooper Kupp in every, obviously pretty often, but not as often as the beginning of the season last year, Woods could be primed for a pretty big season if he fits that role as the wide receiver in that, in that 12 personnel offense better. Let's go ahead and move on to the quarterbacks. I got Danny Dimes, a hot name in the industry right now, a guy that is moving up a lot of people's draft boards. ADP 111. He's in round 10 now. He was QB 24 last year, only started 13 games. I think that he's moving up right now because he's becoming a high upside name that you find later. So a lot of people are punting quarterback early, which I fully agree with. I don't think you don't have to take a quarterback very early unless you really want Mahomes or really want Lamar Jackson or one of those guys in the middle kind of falls to you in round 6 or 7 or so. But Daniel Jones is a guy I find myself grabbing because I want to take, like I said earlier, I want to throw darts here in round 10. And Daniel Jones, we saw what he could do last year. He had a couple 30-point fantasy finishes, and that's not just like out of nowhere games. That's fantasy superstar games right there. The thing that really held him back last year was the 11 lost fumbles and 18 just total fumbles. That's a lot. So that's got to go away. If that doesn't go away, we're gonna have a pretty big issue, and this isn't gonna pay off. But that's why I'm pairing Danny Dimes with a safer quarterback later, like a Ben Roethlisberger, like a Cam Newton, someone who I think I can trust a little more, just in case Danny Dimes comes out slow, which I think he will because they have a pretty tough schedule right in the beginning. So I don't think he's gonna come out hot. I think someone's going to draft him. So if you really want him, you're probably going to have to draft him. You won't be able to just pick him off the waiver wire. So I find myself taking Danny Dimes as my first quarterback a lot, and then just grabbing a guy a few rounds later. Since I'm past round 10, I don't mind taking a few quarterbacks, missing out on some flyer anyway. So I like that strategy. Danny Dimes is a guy I will have on a lot of my teams. Your must-own quarterback is Matt Stafford for the Detroit Lions. ADP 108, so pretty close to Danny Dimes. But just in the round before, end of round 9. He was QB 29 last year. Obviously missed half the season, but he was off on an MVP start for the first half of the season. Why do you like Matt Stafford?
Well, first off, that fumble statistic by Daniel Jones is mind-blowing every time I hear it. You don't really think about how many times he fumbled the ball until you actually say it out loud.
I played all the defenses against the Giants last year. Might be a good move this year.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason why I like Stafford, he was off to an MVP start to the season last year. I think before he went out, he was like QB 6, somewhere around that range. I just think with the throw first offense that the Lions have, it's just a great value to get so late, especially because I like to draft my QBs late. I don't really like to draft a Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson in the first or second round just because of the value you miss out on the skill positions. Obviously, those are great quarterbacks to have, but for me, I'd rather wait and get someone who I can find value with later in the draft after I've already gotten my running backs and wide receivers already all set up. So I think he's just in a good spot to be another top-tier quarterback this year, just based on what they're going to have to do with probably getting back into games. They're going to be down a lot, I'm sure, so they're probably going to be throwing a lot. I just think him and Golladay had that connection where they're just going to go off.
Yeah, definitely. I like Matt Stafford. It's kind of like the vice versa of what I was going for with the take your shot with the quarterback first and then grab the safer guy. I feel like Matt Stafford's like a safe guy with some upside for sure because we saw what he did last season. But then maybe you can grab like a Drew Lock or like a Gardner Minshew and hope they're like the next fantasy superstar out of nowhere like later in the draft if you want to take two quarterbacks. But I think you'd be fine with Matt Stafford as your only quarterback. Let's move on to our must-own tight ends. We talked about this guy a billion times. That's Tyler Higbee for the Los Angeles Rams. ADP 72, so he's right there at the 6-7 turn now. Tight end 8. last year, and that's basically from the last couple of games, or last 4 or 5 games of the season, is why he's tight end 8. Up until then, he didn't even have like 300 yards, so he was definitely not having a great year. I will just add, before I name all the things I really like about Tyler Higbee and why he's on all my teams, his ADP is kind of getting out of control. I think everyone in the fantasy industry is grabbing on, and they're riding the train because they think Tyler Higbee is the next George Kittle, or, you know, fantasy tight end superstar. I can see it, which is why I'm buying in on him in a lot of my drafts. Especially in the smaller drafts where it's better to just have a top high-end positional, you know, advantage. I think Tyler Higbee could be a top 5 guy. So getting me in the 6th, 7th round isn't horrible value. I don't have a problem taking him over Hunter Henry, who has questions with quarterback, or over Evan Ingram, who I love, but he can't stay healthy. You know, guys that are going before him, there's a reason you shouldn't take them, or at least you should feel iffy about taking them. Now, Tyler Higbee has his own reasons, but I'm choosing to believe what I saw last year. I think the genie is out of the bottle. I think they understand what they have in Tyler Higbee. He's a guy that can catch 10 passes in a game, and he can go for 100 yards and a touchdown. And he looked really, really good at the end of last season. I don't think that was just out of nowhere. I think they never saw that side of Tyler Higbee. He was never given that opportunity with Gerald Everett off the field. And, you know, Tyler Higbee came in and showed who he really is. And I think they realized that they have a really good player. So I'm excited to draft him right where he's going right now, hopefully later. But he's scooting up. I don't know how much more he scoots up, but he'll be on all my teams as long as he's right here. So let's move on to your must-own tight end. That's Blake Jarwin for the Dallas Cowboys. ADP 172, round 15, so basically going undrafted, because those are the rounds you're pretty much taking kicker, defense. 2019 finished tight end 28. Not too much. Jason Witten was in town, but hey, why do you like Blake Jarwin?
He's probably going undrafted in most leagues. But for me, I think he's kind of a sneaky pick, sneaky tight end with a lot of upside. Obviously, with the Cowboys offense drafting CeeDee Lamb, I think obviously they're going to be a pass-heavy offense. Obviously, with Zeke, they're going to still run the ball a decent amount because he's a beast, workhorse. But I think with the amount of vacated targets that the Dallas Cowboys have, I think it's like 166 vacated targets between Cobb and Witten. The ball is going to have to go to somebody at tight end. So, and 83 targets for Witten last year. If Jarwin's getting close to that, I think he can do more with the opportunity because he's more athletic, obviously not as old. The sky's the limit. I mean, we saw last year, even with him being the tight end 2, he was a tight end 2 for fantasy. If say you were to draft Higbee, right? And then Higbee just doesn't pan out, or they use Everett more, or he just kind of gets lost in all the other weapons that they have. So say if you grab Jarwin as your last pick and he ends up working out, you kind of don't really lose out on too much.
Yeah, I like that strategy of going with one of the other guys earlier and then take Jarwin with your last pick and just kind of hope it pans out. If you have 2 good tight ends, and I've mentioned this on the show, if you have 2 good tight ends on your team, that's a prime position right there, because trading other people in your league, a tight end for a skill player like a running back or a wide receiver, man, that feels good. So that's the goal with a guy like Blake Jarwin, is to hit on that later on. Those are our must-own players at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. Colin, thanks for joining me today. I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Once again, if you want a chance to win the signed Kenny Golladay jersey, all you have to do is follow the rules in the description below. It's very easy. The first step involves subbing to the channel. So if you like the video today or any of our other videos that you've seen in the past, sub to the channel. We really appreciate it. Liking this video definitely really helps us. Dropping a comment below of some of the players that you're finding on every one of your teams would be great, and we'd love to discuss that with you below. We will respond to every single comment. But until next time, thank you for watching the video, and I hope everyone has a great day. See ya.